The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
You know what? As good as Elias Lindholm was for the Vancouver Canucks, I think there's too many Eliases in the Canucks organization. So bye-bye, Elias. It's time to talk about Chandler Stephenson. Let's go, baby. You're listening to Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, and also a Canucks writer since 2013, currently with Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into today's episode, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks, because guess what? It is your Canucks every damn day. We're part of that Locked On Podcast Network, and if you haven't done so already, help us out if you like what we're doing. Go like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review, all that good stuff on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, got to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. The Canucks offseason is underway again. The only moves in the coaching department, but bigger moves are to come for this team. You know that, and I know that. And, you know, one of our first episodes here on Locked On Canucks after their season ended was paying Lindholm should be the Canucks' number one priority. Well, the more you think about that, the sticker shock, probably going to be too much for your Vancouver Canucks. And, you know, we started off bullish on that episode, but, you know, we kind of came to the conclusion that, you know, if Lindholm's going to cost you in that $7 to $8 million range, then it might not be worth it. So one guy I want to look at today is Chandler Stephenson, okay? Chandler Stephenson now has won 2 Stanley Cups with 2 different teams, the Washington Capitals and the Vegas Golden Knights. He's hitting free agency after a down year, much like Elias Lindholm, but he should be a cheaper player to acquire. So let's talk a bit about Chandler Stephenson. We'll also get into some news and notes regarding your Vancouver Canucks, including, you know, some of those former Canucks coaches finding work. Also that that dreadful documentary coming out. I'm actually looking forward to seeing it. We'll talk about a Canucks prospect as well who was tearing it up. And we'll maybe end on another reason why I'm a butthurt Canuck fan. No, I'm seeing in the comments. Maybe we'll bring some of that up from our previous episodes. But before we get into it, you know what? I thought I was riding solo, but here he is, Kyle Bhawan, the one and only, made it just before his flight. I didn't expect to see you, buddy, but how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Just got to the studio. This is where I park my car before I get to the airport because I'm a cheap Hindu. Okay? It's just the truth. I got 5 minutes. 5 minutes before my Uber comes and picks me up. And we're talking about this. Chandler Stephenson over Elias Lindholm. I'm going to tee you up, okay? I'm going to tee you up before I get out of here. Because I think this says a lot, right? This says a lot about this team's need for a third center. This team not having the ability to say they have that with even a potential re-signing of Teddy Bluger, a potential replacement of Pius Suter becoming a third-line center, right? This is a gaping hole that this team no longer has if Lindholm leaves. And it just adds another, what's the word I'm looking for? A predicament?
It's a
for a team that also needs a top 6 winger. That also needs maybe to replace Zadorov. It's a big position. And it's even more big knowing that the guy you had there before was really, really, really good in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Arguably our 3rd best player or 2nd best player, whatever you want to however you want to look at it. So replacing Lindholm with Stevenson is more than a possibility, because I know that Tocchet and company understand that that's a key position to fill.
Yeah, and we saw how much this team, you know, going back to even when Bo Horvat was here, you know, we saw how much this team likes having 3 solid centers down the middle, right? And I think in the Horvat situation, they were trading from a position of strength to upgrade the right defenseman spot, which was a huge, huge area of need for this team. But now you have Phil Protic in place. You know, we saw it last season, right? You know, time and time again, where the Canucks wingers were showing that, you know, a lot of them weren't really capable to be in the roles that they were in. the Canucks still force-fed that three centers down the middle of Miller, Pettersson, and Lindholm. Now, again, Kyle, I called this out in the beginning of the show. You and I were, one of our first episodes when the season ended was paying Lindholm should be the Canucks' number one priority. But then we started talking about how much it might actually cost. And I don't know. I think, paying $7.5 million or $7 million for a third-line center is a steep cost. Now, with Chandler Stephenson, ironically, much like Lindholm, he's coming off of a down season. So Chandler Stephenson, he actually made it to his first NHL All-Star game in 2022-23. Obviously, 10 goals and 20 points in 22 games to help Vegas win the Cup. Seasons before that, he had 64 points in 79 games a season before that. The guy has really blossomed into a useful all-around NHL player. This season was a bit of a down year for him, though. He had 51 points in 76 games. That's a drop from 65 the year previously. And in the playoffs, he had 1 assist in 7 games, no points at even strength. Now, I think one of the criticisms that I've heard before with Chandler Stephenson is that, like, when he's not playing with Mark Stone, there's going to be problems for this team. But, you look at this team, like Chandler Stephenson with and without Mark Stone, and his numbers, this season and over the past couple seasons are virtually the same. This season with Mark Stone, he's, pretty much a low-end second-line rate. And then in the playoffs, he didn't score with anybody. With or without Stone, his possession metric of Stone was pretty bad. He actually scored at a better rate this season when he played away from Mark Stone, more like a high-end second-line rate. So, at the end of the day, like with anyone who's not a star in this league, there's risks with signing them, right? Mm-hmm. And I think Lindholm and Chandler Stephenson, look, we're talking about free agents. There's going to be aging risk. Chandler Stephenson is only 1 year older than Elias Lindholm. But I look at a guy like Chandler Stephenson who, he kind of came out of nowhere to become a useful NHL player. And Elias Lindholm, on the other hand, is, a high draft pick. He's been highly touted throughout his career. I think Elias Lindholm is probably thirstier for that big payday after, playing on bargain deals for much of his career. But you look at Stevenson as well, and he's coming off of a 4-year deal that paid him $11 million. He's probably looking to get paid too, but I don't think he's going to look to get paid to the same extent as Elias Lindholm now. Kyle, I'm going to ask you before you get out of here. I'm looking at AFP analytics and contract projections, and Chandler Stevenson's contract is projected to be around 5 years and just a shade over $5 million. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about signing a deal like that as a Canucks fan?
I was going to say it sounds like a lot of money, but at the same time, I've seen actually quite a bit of Chandler Stephenson in my time, and he's very useful. He's really good. And, last time I checked, he actually finished this season with more points than Lindholm, if I'm correct, in the regular season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is somewhat of a high ceiling to him, and he's a playoff performer. He's really good. And when we talk about this team not taking a step back, if they're losing Lindholm, Stevenson is not just a replacement type guy. I feel as if he's given you similar, I wouldn't say play driving ability, but similar win rate. Is that the right term? Like he's going to help your team win at the same rate as Lindholm. Again, this team can't take a step back. If this team does not replace Lindholm and that type of pedigree that he showed in the playoffs, they will take a step back. Now, before I leave, because I got to go because my Uber's outside, I just want to tell the people, and I'll talk more about this throughout the week because I will have my laptop with me, and we'll be doing some episodes of Locked On from Alberta. But I'm actually staying at a diehard Oilers fan's house. So I guarantee that this guy's about to prank me. Like, I'm about to get to his crib, and I'm going to go into the spare room, and there's going to be, like, some Oilers bed sheets or something. So I'm going to be emotional, okay? Anyways, I got to get out of here. Again, if we're going to lose Lindholm, we have to replace him with the same value somehow, some way. And I think that it's one thing for us to talk about it, but come on. Alvin Rutherford and Talkit know that too. Okay? Anyways, I'm out of here. Peace out, Trevor. Peace out, people.
Peace out, Kyle. A safe flight to Calgary, buddy. That was Kyle Bhawan, again, my co-host here on Locked On Canucks. Look, I'm going to touch quickly on the Stevenson potential contract before we cut to break and get to the other side. Now, Chandler Stephenson, again, at that number, around 5 times 5, let's call it, I certainly like that a lot more than what I think Lindholm's going to command, which I think is going to be more like 7 times 7. Chandler Stephenson, to Kyle's point, actually had more points than Lindholm this year, right? And I think the big difference, and it's, you don't want to get caught up in the shiny narrative too much because, Chandler Stephenson didn't have a great playoffs. Elias Lindholm did have a great playoffs. but Chandler Stephenson has been a part of 2 Stanley Cup winning teams, and he played very different roles on those teams. With the Capitals, I think it was just a smart, hardworking bottom 6 player who, didn't give up chances the other way, but, was able to create a bit from that bottom 6 role. And with Vegas, when they won the Cup in 2023, he was electric. Again, 10 points in 20 games. This guy, I think, can play up and down your lineup, which is important, right? He can play with star players, but he can also play in a marginal role. That being said, if you're paying him the big boy bucks, he better perform like a big boy player. The last thing I want to mention, too, in terms of why I like Chandler Stephenson as a potential target for the Vancouver Canucks, is the fact that he kills penalties as well. And he's killed penalties really throughout his whole NHL career. One of the top penalty killers in Vegas last season. You look at his numbers relative to the team, and they're fairly standard across the board. But again, Chandler Stephenson, good all-around player. He's a good old Saskatoon boy. Okay, shout out to Saskatchewan. He knows how to block shots and play hard. But again, he's got some offensive creativity to his game as well. So Chandler Stephenson, let us know in the comments. What do you think about the Canucks potentially signing Chandler Stephenson? Is it worth the price? What contract would you be comfortable with? Again, let us know in the comments on YouTube. Hit us up on Twitter or wherever you talk hockey or want to connect with us. On the other side, we have the segment called Trevor's Notes presented by Kyle. It looks like it's going to be Trevor's Notes presented by Trevor, okay? There's 3 things I want to touch on in that segment. Before we get to that, let's shout out our friends over at FanDuel. All right, you know the deal. If you're betting on sports, okay, if you're that kind of person, if you're that kind of degenerate, make sure you go check out FanDuel, okay? Because on FanDuel right now, it's winner take all time, okay? In the NBA and NHL, on FanDuel, they're giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Okay, and if you look at the odds for the Stanley Cup final, the Florida Panthers are the favorite, which kind of scares me, to be honest with you. I'm Team Florida. I'm cheering for the Panthers. I do not want to see the Oilers win, but, unbiased, if I'm a betting man, Connor McDavid being the underdog, I kind of like that bet. I kind of like it. Okay, don't hate me. Again, I'm turning to Kyle Bhawan here. May as well wrap up this ad read before it gets too dark. Again, if you're betting on NHL, NBA, whatever it is, make sure you go check out FanDuel. Go visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, they are America's #1 sportsbook.
Man, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight in Vancouver, all my real fans.
All right. We're back here on Locked On Canucks, the Royal Week, because it's just me. It's just Trevor Beggs, Kyle Bhawan, off to Calgary, Alberta, okay? I don't know what's with Kyle and I, continuously checking out Alberta. I was just in Alberta a couple of weeks ago. Now Kyle's going. I guess Alberta's got some good things to it, but I will say that, the 2 teams I at least want to see win the Stanley Cup, or two of the bottom 3 are probably the Flames and the Edmonton Oilers. And, maybe in the final segment of the show, I'll get into some comments, because I love looking at comments from all of you, but it's especially funny to read the comments of people ripping us, okay? But let's save that towards the end of the show. In this segment, again, it's Trevor's Notes presented by Kyle, but it's actually presented by Trevor this time. All right, first and foremost, let's talk about the Canucks' former coaches who have found homes elsewhere. And, maybe our friends over at Locked On Senators, they might want to start calling themselves the Ottawa Canucks. At least it feels that way when you look at their coaching staff. So they hired Travis Green a little over a week ago now. And now the Ottawa Senators announced that they've added both Mike Yeo and Nolan Baumgartner to the Canucks bench. Because, hey, when you have as much success as you do in Vancouver and those coaches become free agents, you got to snap them up immediately. Am I right, Ottawa Senators fans? Am I right? Yeah, Travis Green made the playoffs in one of his 5 seasons in Vancouver. Obviously, he did some things right, but things were not so right when they fired Travis Green in December of 2021. Again, my first ever game that I covered for Daily Hive, watching the Jersey get chucked on the ice. And yeah, I saw the look in the Green's eyes during that last press conference, and I knew it was probably his last game. But again, Mike Yeo, he actually didn't coach with Travis Green behind the bench during his last stint in Vancouver. He came on after Bruce Boudreau was hired. But Nolan Baumgartner worked with Travis Green for 9 years between the Utica Comets and the Vancouver Canucks. So, you know what? As much as I'm petty, I want the Canucks to be the first team to win the Stanley Cup. And my wife's from Ottawa, okay? If it's Ottawa, Vancouver, I'm obviously Canucks, right? I bleed that blue and green. But, you know, I'll low-key root for Ottawa for a bit. It's all right. I like Travis Green. We'll see what happens there. Again, Canucks sloppy seconds ending up behind the bench of the Ottawa Senators. Okay, speaking of things that are sloppy, things that are messy, the 2011 riot, okay? You've heard about this already, but there's been a documentary, a 30 for 30 documentary made about the riots in 2011 called I'm Just Here for the Riot. It debuts, I believe, tonight on ESPN, but it debuts tomorrow on TSN at 5 p.m. Pacific. And Canucks fans, the pain doesn't stop, okay? The pain doesn't stop. Unbelievable. But, you know, it's going to be a fascinating look at, you know, what they dub in the trailer as one of the first smartphone riots in human history. I mean, that's a bold take, man. There's a lot of conflict going around the world, but when there's conflict that breaks out over a hockey game, it's a bit different now. It's funny, right? I think in North America, it was such an oddity, right, to see the riots take place. But you talk to, you know, soccer fans in South America, in Europe, and this kind of ish, it happens on a regular basis, right? Maybe not to the extent that it did in Vancouver, but there's certainly, you know, drama with fans causing ish, you know, after a sports game. And yeah, again, it was just a next level here in Vancouver. And, you know, I just wish the city of Vancouver, you know, learned their lesson, right? And I'm still pissed about it. I was pissed about it a couple weeks back or a month back now that the Vancouver Canucks on the first round started were the only NHL team to not hold an outdoor viewing party, instead of choosing to have an indoor viewing party at Rogers Arena. There's no reason why you can't do both, okay? Look, I think 2011 showed us we can't have the free-for-all on Georgia Street, but you can gate off an area and have fans pay. Why not do it at, like, Sunset Beach, Stanley Park? I mean, hey, we let the stoners go there. Why not the hockey fans too? I mean, often there's the same thing, man. Maybe only the stoner hockey fans can go to Sunset Beach and watch the Vancouver Canucks play a playoff game, you know? Because who's going to riot if it's a bunch of people smoking weed? Come on, man. Unbelievable stuff. Speaking of unbelievable stuff, Josh Bloom had one of the most unbelievable moments of his life last night. So Josh Bloom, Canucks prospect, he was acquired for Riley Stillman at the trade deadline back in 2023 now. And he started the season in Kalamazoo and with the Abbotsford Canucks, but wasn't really finding his footing. I think it was a good chance for Josh Bloom, who kind of projects as a bigger Tyler Mott, let's say. You know, brings some two-way ability, some scoring punch, but really projects more as kind of a fourth-line energy guy. You know, he looked a little out of place with the Abbotsford Canucks, right? Just trying to find his footing in the pro game. So he went back to the Saginaw Spirit. So it was a bit of a homecoming for him because, you know, he played for Saginaw for most of his OHL career, got traded to the North Bay Battalion, and then seemingly he was done when he came over to Kalamazoo and Abbotsford. But after struggling here, he went back to Saginaw to finish out his junior career. This is his last season of eligibility. Now, Josh Bloom, what a choice by him to go back to Saginaw. And, you know, he helps his team get to the conference finals where they bow out. But as Memorial Cup hosts, they end up, you know, being back in the Memorial Cup. And Josh Bloom scores with seconds left to help the Saginaw Spirit win the Memorial Cup. The guy was almost in tears after the game. If you're on YouTube or Twitter, go find that clip. It's pretty emotional stuff from Josh Bloom. And, you know, kudos to the guy. What a way to end your junior career. It's no matter what happens from at the pro ranks, that's a moment. That's a memory he'll never forget. You know, I'm sure if you guys play beer hockey, ball hockey, sports of any kind, and you have a huge goal like that, it doesn't really matter what level you're at. That's stuff you'll remember for the rest of your life. I'll say Kyle and I met up on the weekend, and we started talking about his ball hockey career. And he's pulling up a video from 2016 where his team, you know, scored the overtime winning goal to win the trophy. And Kyle called it one of the best moments of his life. That's why we love sports, baby, okay? And hopefully more moments to come for your Vancouver Canucks, okay? But unfortunately, as much as there was good moments this year, there was also some moments that made us sad, right? And that's part of being a sports fan. And yeah, Kyle and I, maybe we've been a little butthurt about it, okay? A little butthurt about it. And people were saying things in the comments. Maybe let's read some of your comments on the other side and get to some comments from on our last video where, we're not happy about the Edmonton Oilers potentially winning the Stanley Cup. Not happy about it. I hope you agree with me. And if not, you're not a real diehard Canucks fan if you're cheering for the rival, man. Unbelievable stuff. Let's wrap up the show on the other side, okay? You're listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day. All right. We're back here on Locked On Canucks. My name again is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks. And again, it's your Canucks every day, even in the offseason, baby. Even in the offseason. And, I was brainstorming topics for the show this morning for the next month or so. There's a lot to get into. The Canucks got a lot of decisions ahead of them. Okay, 26 mil in cap space, 26 schmil. How do they spend that? How does this team get better? Okay. How does it happen? We're going to talk about it, okay? And we're also going to talk about you because, again, we're nothing without the people here on Locked On Canucks. And, again, Kyle's getting chirped at the beginning. Someone's saying, oh, no, Kyle's hungover again. You saw Kyle show up, okay? He was here. And we got a comment from Kurt Richardson saying that no to Lindholm. We need wingers. Look, the Canucks do need wingers. It's clearly their top priority is to pay a top six winger. But that being said, what made this Canucks team so successful last year was the fact that they could roll three centers down the middle for a good chunk of the year. And hey, maybe that guy is still Teddy Bluger. Maybe a slot Pius Suter into that role. I think he could succeed as a third line center. But to be a cup contending team, it'd be nice to have three centers down the middle. Now, the Edmonton Oilers don't need three centers, but they also got two guys named Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on their team. But the Florida Panthers, Barkov's one of the best in the game. Sam Bennett, that guy brings it come playoffs. And Anton Lundell, I talked about him a couple episodes as well. Everydayers know. But Anton Lundell is just a fantastic two-way center for the Florida Panthers. Now, let me get into some comments from the last show. And again, I don't want the Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup. Come at me. I bleed the blue and green. There's no way I'm cheering for the Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup. But we got cheered for yesterday, okay? We got a comment saying, wow, I'm Canadian. Being a Stars fan. Go check out Locked On Stars. He's logical and fair. Unlike you guys, I've not listened to much of your podcast, but I'm not going to be a subscriber or a fan. You might want to check out a good podcast. You know what, Kyle and I, we're emotional beasts, man. We're emotional beasts. And if you want a vanilla, level-headed show, this might not be the place for you. Because I'm all over the place, man, and so is Kyle. And there are some days where, I might be level-headed, but there's other days too where I'm just pissed off that the Edmonton Oilers might win the Stanley Cup and break the drought. And here I got a comment from an Edmontonian. Hey, Edmontonian, thanks for the view, buddy. He said, Trevor, you're coming across right now. It's quite simply sad and pathetic jerk. Oh man, people don't like me chirping the Edmonton Oilers, eh? People don't like me talking about Connor McWiner. Again, complaining about the Canucks for the first day of the season. At the end of the day, the Edmonton Oilers, they got a good hockey team, but deep down in my heart, I really do hope they lose. Now, Matt Folger, one of the everydayers here on Locked On Canucks. Shout out to the everydayers. You guys are the true beauties, man. And Matt Folger's got it, okay? He said, do I cheer for the Oilers? Hell no. Am I going to let it affect me if they win? Nope. He said, I was depressed after the Canucks were eliminated, but seriously, go out and touch grass if the Oilers are in your head. Matt's got it, man. And Matt, I need to maybe take some of that advice myself, okay? And lastly, let's shout out Aaron Gray in the comments. Aaron Gray pulling the stats, man. This guy's on daddy duty, working and not pulling the stats. How about having all four of the top picks from the 2014 entry draft playing in the Stanley Cup Finals? Yeah. Aaron Ekblad and Sam Bennett. Alex Barkov? Is that? Oh, that's a different draft. Oh, Sam Reinhart. Sorry. And then Leon Draisaitl. Yeah, that's crazy. Aaron Gray, man. Aaron Gray. Unbelievable. Yeah, I hadn't fact-checked that, but wouldn't be surprised. That's a bit of an odd stat. The first time that 4 draft picks from 2014. Wait, who do we draft in 2014 again? Oh, right. Oh, man. Well, hey, it could be all about. At least we still have Thatcher Demko, but rest of that draft, Jake Virtanen, Jared McCann, Nikita Triamkin, Adam Gaudette was that draft too, I believe. And Gustav Forsling, of course, notoriously a part of that draft. That's it for this episode of Locked On Canucks. Again, Chandler Stephenson. He could replace Elias Lindholm. And he's not going to cost as much. And he's got that cup pedigree. And he's a good old Saskatoon boy. Now, again, as we go through this offseason, we'll map out some cap gymnastics again. So many balls in the air right now, okay? Not like a little ball talk to end the episode, but there are balls aplenty. Okay, I'm walking out of this room at my house. I'm probably going to step on a kid ball, slip, try not to hurt my own balls. One love to you. Protect your balls, okay? That's another episode of Locked On Canucks. Shout out to the everydayers, the occasional listeners, the first-time listeners, the new subscribers, and those of you who join us on the live show on YouTube. It don't matter where you're listening, when you're listening. We love each and every one of you. You make Locked On Canucks what it is. Lots of other topics to get into. We'll see what else to touch on this week. Another one that I do want to touch on is Dakota Joshua. It's sounding more and more likely like this guy won't resign in Vancouver. What are the ramifications of that? And as Pascal Vian said, can the Canucks find the next Dakota Joshua? And who might those candidates be? Lots to cover, including that and more here on Locked On Canucks. Again, you've been listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day. Make sure you like, subscribe, okay? That helps us out, okay? You're helping me feed my family. You're helping Kyle pay for his Uber. Again, we appreciate each and every one of you. And again, you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.